on Justin's two shorter touchdown passes, the second one to Cole, rolling out near the goal line, and the one to Khalil, obviously both had a little bit of improv and some playmaking flair on each of those. What was your vantage point on some of the things he did well to make a play in the moment?
Yeah, the Khalil one was pretty special, right? Just like mostly everybody's playing us, protecting the edges of the defense, and he did a great job of pulling up, reacting to it, and then creating space and time, right? So that's you get in those low gold zone areas, and we talk about that all the time. QB's extending plays, or I would imagine half the scores in the league come from that. And so him able to do that, create some extra time, get some space, get the defense running a little bit. That was a really cool play to see. And then the cool one is just we talk about small growth every single week. That's a good example of him playing the play to the end, trying to run to the pylon, and then making sure that he's keeping the pass run option available until the last second.
How do you guys take momentum from Justin's 335 yards, some tight window throws against a defense that statistically isn't good? But how do you take that game and build off it?
Yeah, it's the part of the next step, right? We got to make sure that we can consistently execute. That was a good example of overcoming a couple critical errors too, right? The penalties part of it was an issue that we can't seem to get rid of just quite yet. We were able to overcome most of those, except for the big one at the end. And so we got to make sure we knock those out. But the execution part of it, the communication part of it, was all pretty crisp, and therefore give Justin an opportunity to go and play at a high level.
Hey, Luke, on the 4th and 1, after you guys take the timeout, is there any debate still on the sideline at that time on whether or not you guys are going for it or kicking the field goal, or is it all trying to come up with the right play to convert the 4th and 1?
Yeah, no, any of the communication at that point was just making sure we were all on the same page with the play that we were going to run. So that was, Flu said we were going, so then we had a chance to bring the guys over and say what we were going to do, and we went with it. And like Flu said the other day, like we liked the call. We didn't obviously execute it necessarily, but we knew how they were going to line up. We had the right call. Justin made the right decision with his decision, and we just didn't get it done.
And that's one of the plays that Justin Fields is most comfortable with in that scenario. Is that something you guys check with him during the week? Practice and say, what would you want in this scenario? So he was comfortable with it?
For sure. That was the 4th time we ran that play, probably 3rd time we ran a similar type play. So the execution, the alignments, the angles, everything was exactly the way we wanted it.
What made that the right play in your mind?
Well, it was, it's the play that when you have the defense aligned the way that they were aligned, and we knew what the structure that was going to be like, we wanted that run scheme. And it still takes us doing the job, and we didn't necessarily do the job to get that one done.
How do you assess your wide receiver depth chart with Chase not a part of it?
And what do you mean? How do I assess it?
Is it fair enough? Are you happy with the group? Like you didn't have him last week. You're not going to have him this week. I don't know about the future, but how do you feel about that position group with Chase not in the room?
Yeah, we're getting to know each other each and every week. We get to know each other a little bit more, get to know a little bit more about each guy and what they do well, where they need to improve on and stuff. And so we do a pretty good job each week. Tyke does a great job of dialing in. Once we put the plan together of making sure everybody's in the exact position that they need to be in for each scheme. So I think that part of it, we're growing to know each other much better, and hopefully we can continue to get guys in the positions to help them go be successful.
Tevin obviously got returned to practice yesterday, but your practice schedule this week is so different than your regular one. What in the world can you watch with him yesterday, today, and tomorrow to have a feeling as to whether or not he can be able to go Thursday?
Yeah, fortunately, he's not one of the new guys, right? There's a lot of new guys, and it'll be hard for one of those guys to do that, but he's not one of the new guys, so that should comfort him a little bit more. We got some good work in through camp, him on the left side. So we're excited to see where we go. We'll see how far he can go. We get a chance to let him do a little bit today. I know it's walkthrough only, but we'll see how the next day or two goes, and then we'll just take it from there.
Does he have a legitimate chance? Does he have a legitimate chance of going Thursday?
I would assume he has a legitimate chance, but like I said, it's gonna take another day or two to make sure that everybody feels good with it.
Where did you see the most improvement from Justin in this last game versus like the first couple?
Statistically, right? No, he's been locked in. I told you guys that each week. I feel like his comfort level and what we're doing, knowing what his assignments are, knowing what's going on around him is much improved, and he was able to put that all together much better this week for sure.
Luke, how disappointed are you in Chase Claypool?
I think in that whole situation, we're worried about Thursday, and I'm gonna let Coach and Ryan handle all that stuff. Anything we're gonna talk about Chase today.
Well, one thing
The
though,
extension of Larry's question, obviously you have a day, 471 total, you've got a 300-yard passer, a 100-yard receiver, 100-yard rusher. When you went back and looked at it, what do you feel like carries forward for the entire offense from what you guys accomplished Sunday?
Well, I think as you look at the way that game played, we had 78 snaps instead of 50 snaps that we've had each of the first couple of weeks. So that part of it, just showing that we were able to play go into the game plan and play the way we wanted to play, and we were able to run the ball. We talked about explosives last week, how we were lacking that. We were able to go get those in the run game, and anytime you're able to do that, that's going to open up other things for yourself. And so, it was an opportunity for us to go out and we executed a little bit better in each area, and we were able to create more explosives, and that always leads to more points.
How do you evaluate how do you discern how much of that is progress and how much of that was facing the worst defense in the league?
Well, everybody in this league is really, really good, so I wouldn't take that for anything as far as who you're playing against from that extent. Every challenge is different as well, right? We go up against a team this week that is loaded, and as good of a front five as there is in this league. And so it's a different type of challenge, but one we can build on, as we continue to grow through the season.
I know we can all interpret statistics however we want, but you did mention stats when Larry asked about improvements. Is that kind of a relief from your perspective, and maybe even from Justin's perspective, that there's some actual numbers put up on the board that look very sturdy?
Yeah, no, there's only one stat that really matters to both Justin and we didn't get that one done. So,
Luke, you mentioned the front of Washington being one of the best in the league. What are the complications of running those nakeds, those boots that you guys did against Denver when you're facing a front like this?
It's a challenge every week when you have a guy like we have and everybody's planning for it, and then now you put the level of talent that these guys have. It's pretty incredible. The two interior guys play the game as good as anybody in this league. Being able to diagnose what's going on, get two hands on an offensive lineman, see what's happening in the backfield, and then react. So it's a challenge. It's something that we have to do a really good job of trying to be creative to find ways to get every aspect of our game going.
On the strip sack fumble, Justin said the rule there is just don't take a sack on nakeds or bootlegs. What's the coaching point there if he has his back turned in those situations so that doesn't happen again?
Yeah, we just talked about the goal line play was exactly the same thing, and so whenever you you have what we refer to as a dirty edge, which pretty much every bootleg keeper that we have is a dirty edge. You got to come out high, and when you recognize that the rusher is high, you got to pull up. And so he didn't do that on that particular one. He did it on the other one and created a touchdown for us. And so that's part of that learning experience that you get in games and seeing the way everybody's game planning you specifically.
You hear Justin and Cole both explain the interception. Justin was expecting Cole to maybe freelance a little bit and sit down, and Cole was sticking to his rules. What do you want to see happen outside of both guys doing the same thing?
Yeah, no, it's like you said, it's just being on the same page. That's a route that Cole's reading the leverage of a defender, and so is Justin at the same time. And so, and the other part of it was, the depth of the route. You had to give it a little bit of time too. So all that's we just got to make sure that those two are on the same page, and then you can anticipate the throw.
You had an uptick in like shift in motion this past week compared to like the first 3 weeks. What does that do for the offense?
Yeah, it's good when you don't have to run 2-minute offense for most of your snaps. That's part of it, right? Because when you're going fast, you don't get to do that. But that's huge for us because it displaces defenses. It creates leverage for yourself. You get advantageous leverage. You get advantageous information for coverage in front and pressures. And so all that stuff's really important to what we do on a regular.
And respecting your decision to let Brian handle the talking about Chase Claypool, but it appeared that, like in camp, he was a featured guy, a guy that you guys really wanted to get production out of. How does it change or reset your focus and your offense not having a guy who, at least from my perspective, it appeared that you guys wanted to feature this year?
Well, there's always the challenge of anytime you go into a game week, you have some people and you don't have some people, and that's part of the job that we do. We got to make sure that we're prepared for whatever's thrown at us, and that's just that's what we have to deal with, and we're working through with the guys that we got.
Last week you talked about Justin, there's still been a lot going on through the first 4 weeks of this season around here, and how Justin's been able to really handle that very well. But what is the challenge now, coming off of a loss like that? Quick turnaround, you're now missing a player on offense. For you as the coordinator to kind of make sure morale stays high, everybody stays on the same page moving forward.
Yeah, just it's what we talked about before in the sense of you create this relationship with your players long before any moment ever comes, right? And you create this relationship that you can lean on in the good and the bad. And we know as pros, everybody in this building, that when that game's over, you get a couple minutes to think about it and reflect on it, whether it was good or bad, and then it's time to rock and roll again. And so there's no putting our head down, and we're consistent. The positive energy is going to be flowing. We're bringing it with us every single day. That's what we do, and we're not going to change.
That's not juice, right?
Sorry?
It's not juice. This isn't. That's not juice, right? Somebody else.
Look, you talk about it, so you talk about the 17-game process. This is still only week 5, but at what point do you expect, can this offense not have the problems that it has in the fourth quarter, like the miscommunications or the penalties or the missed block? At what point will it be able to convert these things where if it does happen, it's kind of a red flag that, hey, there's a problem?
Yeah, there's no point that's set. We just got to get better, and we got to make sure that we execute better, point blank. I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's week 5 or week 17. We got to execute better at all phases, whether it's 4th and 1, whether it's the first quarter, doesn't really matter. We got to make sure we're executing better, everybody across the board, including myself.
Thanks, Luke.
Thanks, guys.
All right, how's everyone doing today?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing outstanding, thank you. Short week, obviously excited for our football team to respond on a national stage and showcase our team on prime time. So excited about the opportunity to get going there, and the guys are fired up about it as well. Obviously, they didn't like how the game ended last week. None of us did, and they're passionate and they're focused and they're ready to fight. So I love the look in their eyes this morning. So with that, we can open up to questions.
What do you do to get ready for a left-footed punter?
Really, what you do is there's a couple different things you can do that teams are all across the league do. They could change their jugs, which most people do that. They can have workouts, which some people do that, or they can have a left-footed punter. When you could have 2 punters on the roster at a time. Obviously not during the season active. I mean, you could do that on practice squad if you wanted to, but those are just a couple different ways that people get ready for lefties.
Is there just the inverse spin or the opposite spin? Is there, did the left-footed punter do anything different than the inverse of a right-footed punter?
No, I mean, I understand your question. I understand exactly what you're saying, and it's a well thought out question. They don't do anything in terms of the way they kick the ball differently. All punters have different types of kicks. They have regular punts, they have pull hooks, they have bananas, they have the punting game is so much different than it was when I first came in the league, with all the variations of punts that guys can do. But typically with left-footed punters, the spin is different and they tend to drop differently. They're a lot harder to catch for some people just because you're more right-footed punters than left-footed punters. But the good thing about that is, our guys played against Tress before, and he's caught those punts from lefties before. So Trent's an experienced guy, so excited to see his opportunity to play this week.
With the 4th and 1 situation late in the game, obviously you're well within Cairo's range at that point. You got to get your field goal unit ready to go out. How much back and forth is there? There's 2 timeouts that were used, one by Denver, one by you during that sequence. And how much input do you provide during that sequence?
Yeah, I mean, really, even before that sequence starts, Coach is phenomenal about communication. and everybody that's on the headset and everybody's talking about it, and those kick distances change throughout the drive depending on what happens during the drive. But that happens on like all drives. It's not just that drive. It happens on every drive, where we're talking about a punt distance, a kick distance, a go for it distance, a fake distance. It always happens. So it happens every drive.
That was unique in a little bit of a way because there was a 2 timeouts back to back. Was there much discussion, debate, conversation on kick or go?
Well, I again, it's always that discussion. Like, it happens on first down. It happens on second down. I guess to answer your question, there's not a difference if there's a timeout or not, because we're always having the discussion. But I mean, it's no different than it always was in that case.
Are you conflicted at that point too? Because I'm sure you appreciate the team being aggressive, but do you want Cairo to kick there?
You talking about that particular play? His question?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love coaches' aggressiveness to try to have a game end with an offensive touchdown or a game-winning field goal.
Richard, what kind of challenges does Antonio Gibson present in the kick return game?
That's a detailed question, because this kid is 4'3", 9. He's 228 pounds. Really good vision. Really good power. Gets a good full head of steam. He presents challenges, for sure. Just like the last kid we played did on kickoff. That kid presented challenges. Obviously, he had a touchdown as well, but I had a touchdown a week before we played, obviously, as well. And Gibson's had some big returns too. So, like I kind of said last week, we're finding that there are less returns, but when they do come out, you better be on top of it, because the return yardage is a lot greater at this point in the league. And I was happy that Homer and all of those guys, on their opportunity that they did have this week, were able to deliver for the football team there. And that was really a good stretch of complimentary football. If you want to talk about, scoring and then kicking off, stopping them at the 4-yard line for no gain, and then the defense coming out, going 3 and out. I think the first play was a run. The second play, we stopped for like a yard or something, but there was a penalty by them, like offensive holding, which we declined. And then the third down, they threw the pass, and I think Stroman made the play. So we got them to punt from backed up. And if you take that a step further, now the punt return team has to go out there and execute. And it was a short punt. And Trent did a phenomenal job of coming up, catching that punt in plus territory to give Justin and the boys' offense right there the ball in plus territory, and we go up 14-7. So we just want to see that happen in more stretches, and we're excited to do that. So good, it's a good one.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Kevin. Sorry.
How close was Dylan on that field goal block? And is that something that, when you put that out there, you have to how often can you do something like that before somebody sees it?
Yeah, I can't believe you saw that. That's pretty good. Dylan he said he could feel it he could feel the air. So that's what he said when he came off. So he was extremely close. Those guys executed that play and that scheme phenomenally. We probably were maybe a fingertip or two away from blocking that kick. You got to give the kid credit. He hit his best ball of the day right there. But usually those 51-yarders, those balls come out a little lower. So I was happy to see our field goal block unit execute everything legally and have an opportunity to try to help us win the football game there.
Richard, excuse me, have kickers adjusted to the 33-yard XPAT? It just seems like when it first came in, it kind of threw them, and they missed more of those than 33-yard field goals, and now it's becoming more and more like not automatic, but a higher percentage.
Yeah.
Is there a mental adjustment, or do you feel like there's some kind of adjustment or something?
I think there is. I think with any and the statistics will say that as well. So any rule change or any adjustment, I think guys just have to go through it, you know, because I think it was a mental deal because they've been kicking it, you know, from almost like the half yard mark or 2 yard or whatever you want to call that right there, and to move back now it becomes a normal field goal. So yeah, 33-yard field goal, which is makeable percentage, but it's just different. I was from here to there. You'd be surprised at how many times kickers miss field goals after a penalty or when they have to move back.
Really?
Yeah, that if there's a penalty or after a sack, you'd be surprised at the percentage of it from if you just go third down incomplete to kick. It's mind blowing, to be honest. Good. Thank you all. Appreciate it.